Right now at noon, a 72-year-old shot at a Harnett County stop sign. The person accused of pulling the trigger is now in jail after being labeled a fugitive by authorities.
Plus, Governor Roy Cooper says he will not reinstate mask mandates. Will a new spike in cases change that, though?
And a push to replace who oversees North Carolina public school sports. Data shows the current group is the wealthiest of its kind. Now legislators want to change that.
Your number one source for local news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
Breaking news at noon. A man linked to the deadly shooting of a 72-year-old woman is now in jail.
That suspect has been identified as Artist Elliott and was labeled a fugitive for less than an hour by the Harnett County Sheriff. He turned himself in shortly after Sheriff Wayne Coates ended this morning's news conference. WRAL's Gilbert Bays joins us live from Harnett County with these breaking developments.
Well, I tell you, Adam, this was really strange how this all played out this morning. The suspect in this case was supposed to turn himself in last night, according to authorities here. Then he was supposed to turn himself in this morning at 7. That didn't happen. So the last word was he was supposed to turn himself in at 10 o'clock. And Sheriff Wayne Coates said, well, we're going to start the press conference because he had not turned himself in. Elliott's attorney gave me a call and said the plan was for him to turn himself in at 10 o'clock, and he was just a little bit behind schedule in turning himself in. And as you mentioned, he didn't turn himself in until after the press conference was over. All that aside, the bottom line is he is now behind bars, and we're going to show you a mugshot of him. This is a picture of the suspect. You mentioned 29-year-old Artist Elliott. We're told he lives not too far from the victim. She is 72-year-old Margie Pippin. Now, investigators say she was at a stop sign at the intersection of Beaver and Bun Level Irwin Roads when we're told Elliott was in the champagne-colored Grand Mercury Marquis when he began shooting at someone else in another vehicle. Pippin is an innocent bystander. She was shot in the head. Authorities said she died last night at Caper Valley Medical Center. The sheriff says this was a senseless act that cost an innocent woman her life.
It's so disturbing and aggravating. I mean, it's a lot of it is gang, turf war. It could be, and not in this case. I don't think it involves a woman, but I mean, it don't take much today to set them off.
Now, Elliott was originally going to be charged with assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious injury. But since the victim in this case died last night, he now faces a first-degree murder charge. So Elliott continues to be processed right here in Harnett County Detention Center. We're expecting to get a new mugshot of him a little later on today. And in the meantime, he will remain locked up in the detention center without bond.
Yeah, this seems to be developing all the time. Gilbert Bays live in Harnett County. Thank you so much, Gilbert. No injuries reported in a crash between a school bus and a car in Apex. The video you see here is from the aftermath of that crash this morning. It happened on 1010 Road near the intersection of Graham-Newton Road. The bus was en route to Westlake Middle School, only 3 miles away from that crash. A trooper tells WRAL News the driver of the car involved was a teenager around 16. He will be charged with failure to reduce speed. There were 25 students on that bus.
A new CDC study is revealing how many children experience the death of a parent or caregiver as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Researchers estimate that more than 1 million children experienced the death of at least one parent during the first 14 months of the pandemic. Also, another 500,000 lost a custodial grandparent or other caregiver. Experts say the findings highlight the urgent need to invest in programs to protect and support these children. COVID-19 cases in North Carolina are rising. Right now, we are averaging nearly 1,000 new cases a day. Governor Cooper is expected to address this increase later today. WRAL's Nye Harden has more on what we can expect from this announcement.
One doctor in the area telling me that the vaccination rate is disappointing, and he says that he doesn't know what we should do when it comes to trying to get people to vaccination sites like here at the Durham County Health and Human Services. Right now, the positivity rate 7.3%, much higher than it's been in months. Majority of the cases are people unvaccinated. Dr. David Wall with UNC says doctors in our area are trying to get through to patients, warning them about how dangerous the Delta variant is, but says that there's a lot of information out there and people don't always believe it. WRAL's David Crabtree spoke exclusively with Governor Cooper on Friday, to ask him about masks and whether he would consider reinstating the requirement.
The problem with a mandatory mask for everybody is that, vaccinated people really don't need to wear a mask. I mean, you and I are sitting here. The vaccines are so effective that it's highly unlikely that I'm going to get it. But if I do, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to be very sick or even go into the hospital.
The governor will be speaking at 2 o'clock this afternoon. You can watch it live on WRAL.com. Naya Harden, WRAL News, Durham.
WRAL will carry the governor's address on air and online on WRAL.com and on our WRAL News app.
A new millionaire has been picked in North Carolina. They just don't know it yet. Earlier this morning, the winners of the third vaccine cash drawing were picked. One person wins $1 million. A teenager will also win a college scholarship. We will not know those winners for a few days, though. After today, there's just one more chance to win the prize. You need to get your first dose by August 1st to be entered. Make sure your name is on the list of potential winners. You can head to WRAL.com, click on the Find Your Shot button. You'll find a list of vaccination sites and information to book your vaccine ahead of the last drawing.
State lawmakers are talking about revamping the oversight of school sports in North Carolina. They're debating a bill that would dissolve the North Carolina High School Athletics Association and replace it with a government board. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is live at the state legislature this afternoon, where that hearing started an hour ago. Laura.
Renee, and that hearing is still going on at this hour. NCHSAA has been overseeing sports in North Carolina since 1913. That's more than a century now. But lawmakers say the private nonprofit is not responsive to parents, students, or lawmakers in this case. Lawmakers want to replace that governing body with a new state commission that would be appointed by elected leaders. They say the group is charging high fees and fines to schools who already can't afford to support their athletics programs. And they say the NCSHAA is requiring schools to use preferred vendors that are massively overcharging them. In the meantime, the private nonprofit has $41 million in assets. Senator Todd Johnson said he's tried to work with the group's leaders for nearly 2 years now, but he says they refuse to turn over financial information or to cooperate with attempts to reform how the system works.
This bill is solely about accountability and transparency and what is needed. And quite honestly, it's what we demand in every single aspect of state government. Having different agencies and divisions be accountable and transparent with their dealings.
Coming up at 12:30, we're going to hear NCHSAA's side of the story with our Nick Stevens. In the meantime, lawmakers did make one change to the bill this morning. They initially wanted to make all homeschool students eligible to participate in school sports at their home school if they're eligible. They meet eligibility requirements, but they decided today to just make that into a study instead. Back to you, Renee.
Laura Leslie live at the state legislature. Thanks, Laura. 3 Republican House members lost their appeals challenging fines for not wearing face coverings on the House floor. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kentucky's Thomas Massie, and Ralph Norman of South Carolina challenged the $500 fines. The Republicans argued that the mandate was out of sync with recent federal guidance on face coverings during the COVID-19 pandemic.
A bottleneck in passports has travelers bottled up with some frustration. Congress is calling for the Biden administration to act. The State Department says there are an estimated 2.1 million passports still waiting to be processed. One official says the backlog is due to a limited in-person workforce because of the coronavirus pandemic, as well as large numbers of applications because of people being allowed to travel thanks to vaccinations. The House Foreign Affairs Committee wants the State Department to prioritize reducing those processing times. Social Security recipients could be getting some bigger checks soon, all thanks to a living adjustment and higher prices. The Senior Citizens League says those who receive Social Security checks may soon see as much as a 6.1% cost of living jump in their check amounts. If that happens, that would be the highest annual adjustment since 1983. The hike is based on June inflation data.
The Dow is on a tear this midday, up 264 points, extending its rebound rally thanks to better than expected earnings reports. S&P 500 also in the green, advancing about 30 points, and NASDAQ up 86 points at this hour. Robinhood plans to debut on NASDAQ next week. Stock trading app plans to begin Trading next Thursday, July 29th. Robinhood wants to raise up to $2.3 billion in its initial public offering, and that could value the company at $35 billion.
We want to make a quick correction now to a report we brought you yesterday in this newscast. We incorrectly reported that 22% of all new COVID cases were in vaccinated people. We've received more information from DHHS, and that number is actually just over 5% in cases since early May. We do regret that error. Coming up next for us at noon, tens of thousands of acres burned or burning. We'll show you just how many fire crews are battling in California right now. Also, the opening ceremonies for the Tokyo Olympics have not even happened yet, but already Team USA was dealt a tough loss, and the forecast is heating back up, Elizabeth.
That's right. Our temperatures are going to climb into the upper 80s, but feeling more like 90s. Also, we have a lot of smoke in the atmosphere. We're going to talk about how far away this smoke is coming from and how long it will be with us.
The new WRAL streaming apps on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV.
On July 23, 1993, basketball superstar Michael Jordan's father, James Jordan, was murdered in North Carolina.
This is the father of the most famous athlete on the planet, and on his 57th birthday, he was an unidentified dead man in the middle of nowhere.
From WRAL Studios, available now is Follow the Truth, where we dig into the story of the James Jordan murder and the man who says he didn't do it.
I know that if this was not Michael Jordan's father, I wouldn't be in prison.
We'll question the evidence.
Is it possible for a man to be shot in his car and authorities not find any blood?
Our ballistics expert says it couldn't have happened.
Shed light on the mystery that has always surrounded the murder.
Whether his financial dealings could have had anything to do with his death.
And uncover bombshell new developments.
Here we are a quarter century later, and the back cover on this whole murder case isn't yet closed.
Follow the Truth on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen.
Good afternoon from the WRAL Live Center. I'm Brian Schrader, monitoring live pictures outside a Los Angeles courtroom where Harvey Weinstein could be arraigned later today on sex-related charges involving 5 women. He left a New York prison yesterday and was booked in the Los Angeles jail. He could appear later today in a courtroom here. Of course, he's already serving a 23-year sentence in prison for other sex crimes. If found guilty of these charges in California, he could face another 140 years in prison. Back to you.
Most of California is currently in an extreme drought, raising concerns for the existing wildfires that are burning right now. The University of California Cooperative Extension has this fire activity map that shows where all the California fires are currently burning. Look at all this red. There are currently at least a dozen wildfires burning through the state. The Dixie Fire ravaging nearly 60,000 acres and counting in a remote area near the town of Paradise. The Tamarack Fire, which was sparked by lightning on July 4th, also continues to burn southwest of Markleeville. Officials say flames have burned more than 39,000 acres. It was 0% contained as of last night. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office is asking people in that area to be prepared to evacuate as flames keep spreading. Residents are facing losing everything as they leave their homes.
So many things that where to begin. You know, it's total loss. You just have to walk away like they ask you to. So that's been the hardest thing. Seeing all the power lines completely exploded and down. Not very hopeful for anything coming to an end anytime soon.
More than 1,100 people are battling the blaze, and some roads have been shut down.
This morning, the North Carolina Forest Service has 41 people on the West Coast helping contain those wildfires. They are spread across multiple states, including Oregon, where firefighters work to stop the bootleg fire. The wildfire has scorched an area larger than Los Angeles and is only 30% contained.
Local news coverage of the Tokyo Olympics brought to you on WRAL by your Carolina Ford dealers.
Let the games begin. Even before the opening ceremony of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, the first competition is underway in Japan.
The United States women's national team is off to a slower start after losing their first round Olympic match in Tokyo. Today's game began the same way the Rio Olympics ended, with a stunning loss to Sweden. Unfortunately, the Swedish team shut out the United States 3-0. Sweden earns 3 points for the victory, establishing itself as the early favorite in Group G. The good news, Team USA is not out of contention by any means and have been down this road before. In 2008, the U.S. women's team lost to Norway in the opening round and went on to win the gold. American beach volleyball Olympian Taylor Crabb has tested positive for COVID-19 while in Tokyo. The news comes just days before the start of the Tokyo Olympics. Crabb's brother, a fellow beach volleyball pro, described the situation as terrible, saying Taylor is fine and healthy. Crabb is the 5th Team USA Olympian to test positive for COVID-19. The women's U.S. beach volleyball team is getting ready for the Olympics. Kelly Clace, Sarah Sponsel, Alex Kleinman, and April Ross practice today. They're at the park at a venue there. Ross and Kleinman are expected to be one of the top duos competing at the games. They're currently the number 2 ranked pairing in the world. Beach volleyball starts on July 24th.
On the eve of the Olympics opening ceremony, nightlife goes on in Tokyo, despite government efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19. The government asked restaurants and bars to close by 8 p.m., if not entirely. Many bars, though, remain open, and they are bustling with customers defying the rules. A lot of people just taking their drinks outside. Health officials see drinkers as key spreaders of COVID. On one recent night, city workers wearing green vests were patrolling the areas to ask, not force, people to refrain from drinking and from chatting outside. The Tokyo Olympics officially kick off on Friday with the game's opening ceremony. Our live Olympics coverage begins here on WRAL tomorrow morning. Look for live coverage from Tokyo each morning during our 6 a.m. news and every evening during our 5 o'clock hour.
And looking at our forecast, Elizabeth, I think we're going to remember exactly how spoiled we have been over these last couple of days, because it's certainly going to warm up.
It is. Today is the day that we're going to transition back to our summer pattern after having a couple of cool days with a lot of cloud cover. We take a look at the airport, and just looking at it, it looks like the skies are gray, doesn't it? It's just the haze, and a lot of this haze is actually coming from the smoke from the wildfires. We were just talking about the wildfires just about 5 minutes or so ago in our newscast. Take a look at Grandfather Mountain. Now, a little farther south, we call these mountains the Smoky Mountains, not usually because of smoke, but when you take a look at Grandfather Mountain behind Sugar Mountain Resort, boy, you can just tell how much smoke there is in the air, and we're seeing that here. How is it getting here? Partially due to the jet stream. The jet stream is a river of fast-moving air that's in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The jet stream often sends storms our way, and most of the time moves from west to east. Sometimes, like a river, it meanders a little bit. So right now, it's coming across California, up through the Pacific Northwest, diving across Texas, and right into North Carolina. We also have winds, though, coming out of the northwest, and there are fires up in Canada as well. And a lot of that is also pushing into North Carolina, too. So you see the yellow here, that's getting into not necessarily moderate smoke, but you can definitely see we're, between the light and moderate. And that's likely to continue for today and the next several days until we see our pattern break down. We actually have a cold front that's going to be moving down from the north and west. That's going to continue our northwesterly flow, and until we switch that flow to southwesterly, we're going to be dealing with that smoke, and that's not likely to happen until potentially Friday. Look at all these wildfires that are out here across the west, California, the Pacific Northwest, the Intermountain West, and of course that doesn't even include all the fires that we're seeing in Canada. Right now, our air quality is moderate. Sometimes during the summer we get up into orange, which is unhealthy. We're not there yet, but if we continue to see the smoke pumping into our area, it's possible that we could get there over the next couple of days. It's hotter too today. We were in the low 80s yesterday. We'll see a high of 89 in Raleigh, 88 in Durham, and 90 in Fayetteville. And of course, that's only part of the story. If you've been outside in the last couple of days, it's very muggy. So it will feel like 98 in Fayetteville, 97 in Durham and Raleigh, 94 in Rocky Mount, Wilson, and Goldsboro. 91 is our normal high, and so we continue to see temperatures close to normal. But with the heat index, it's going to feel a lot hotter than that. So far, we've had 13 days days this month at 90 degrees or hotter, and the average for July is 15. We're probably going to surpass that since we already have several days in the 90s in our 7-day forecast. But last year we hit 28, so it's not likely that we'll see as many as we did last year, if that's any consequence at all. So 89 today, 90 for Thursday and Friday. We do see just a slight chance of thunderstorms over the next couple of days, but into early next week comes a more potent front, and we'll talk about how much rain we could see by early next week in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Still to come on WRAL this afternoon, coronavirus may be hitting homes harder than before. Sarah Kruger investigates how the Delta variant is spreading among families, and a new report that 1 in 5 Durham COVID cases is now in kids under 12.
And the buyer agreed to pay for shipping, but after FedEx picked up the boxes, they billed the local company, and not just a little, $10,000. 5 on your side looks into the scam that cost a local company already struggling from the pandemic. Britney Spears' legal battle sparks a movement on Capitol Hill, how a bipartisan bill could impact more than 1 million people in this country.
And if you've experienced trouble sleeping over the past year and a half, it may be because of the pandemic. What a new study reveals about our sleep habits and dreams since the emergence of COVID-19.
Hey, it's Jamie and Sarah with the Wine and Dandy podcast, and we're about to drop some wine knowledge and name drop Sarah.
That's right. Snoop Dogg, Post Malone, and John Legend, they all have wines, and we're going to taste them.
Join us.
You can find our podcast at WRALFM.com, as well as your Apple Podcast app and anywhere you find your podcasts.
Just look for Wine and Dandy. Once you search and find it and enjoy it, please tell all your friends. Share the link with them.
And be sure to follow us, because wine is fun, and we intend to prove it.
Looking live over Lake Gaston, someone's about to have a good time. You can see they're already putting the boat on the water, and that might be a good spot to be. It's going to be a little bit warmer today. The Free Britney movement is gaining momentum, now catching the attention of Washington and social media platform Instagram, giving people more control to manage some content. Plus, it's National Hot Dog Day. Those are among today's business headlines with Maribel Aber.
Britney Spears' ordeal to end her years-long conservatorship has sparked the attention of lawmakers. 2 members of the House of Representatives proposed a bipartisan bill titled the Free Britney Act. If passed into law, it would give those under illegal conservatorship or guardianship the right to replace their court-appointed guardian with a guardian of their choice. It would also assign an independent caseworker to monitor the conservatorship. Spears' father was given control over her life and finances in 2008. Instagram has a new feature to control the amount of sensitive content seen by its users. The new tool is called Sensitive Content Control. It gives users the option to manage the amount of potentially objectionable content that appears in Explore. The app already has content rules and policies that ban certain types of content, including hate speech and harassment. The new tool would take it further by reducing content that some might take offense to, but isn't necessarily violating Instagram rules. Today is National Hot Dog Day. Get ready for the deals. Hot dogs are just $1 at Circle K and 7-Eleven. Filling up the tank, we'll stop by Racetrack and get a hot dog for free. Hot dogs are $1.50 at Quick Trip locations, and hot dogs are buy one, get one for 5 cents at participating Nathan's Famous locations. The National Hot Dog and Sausage Council estimates Americans consume as many as 20 billion hot dogs each year. And those are your business headlines. I'm Maribel Aber on the Money Desk.
Thanks, Maribel. Samsung might be hinting it will unveil a new kind of foldable phone next month. It's holding an online event called Galaxy Unpacked, August 11th. The tagline for the event is, "Get ready to unfold." The company says it's trying to fill a need for, quote, flexible, versatile mobile devices. Samsung already offers a phone called Galaxy Z Fold 2. A muffin maker for a variety of companies and chain stores is recalling some of its products for a possible bacterial contamination. Give and Go Prepared Foods Corporation says it's recalling certain muffin products because of the potential of listeria. Name label include Uncle Wally's. Products are sold in stores nationwide, including Walmart and Sam's Club.
The debate over masks in schools continues. Which states have made a decision for the fall and what others are still waiting to take a stand.
Here are the winning lottery numbers. Carolina pick 3, 8, 9, and 9. Pick 4, 1, 9, 6, and 2. The Carolina Cash 5 was a double draw. First set, 3, 4, 10, 34, and 43. Second set, 2, 15, 37, 38, and 40.
Your number one source for local news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
A Wake County man is in custody after police say he shot and killed a 17-year-old in Zebulon.
Our breaking news tracker has been following this developing story throughout the day. WRAL's Aaron Thomas is live in Zebulon with what we know. Aaron.
Renee, Adam, at this point, we are still working to find out what led up to this shooting. This is what we know so far. Police said that 17-year-old Carlton Lamont Damon Jr. was shot in this parking lot on Gannon Road. He later ran inside this vape shop behind me looking for help. He was taken to the hospital where he later died from his injuries. Zebulon police were quick to put surveillance photos of the accused suspect on social media. Investigators arrested and charged 19-year-old Javion Whitfield with Damon's murder. Police say having the community share this story on social media helped them make an arrest 8 hours after the shooting took place. Business owners and shoppers I spoke with out here today say that incidents like these are uncommon in Zebulon.
Gives me a little bit of closure, and yeah, it makes me very happy that they caught the guy.
And Javion Whitfield is expected to be in court this afternoon. We'll have an update beginning on our newscast at 4. Back to you.
Aaron Thomas reporting live in Zebulon. Thanks, Aaron.
And just into the WRAL Live Center, new numbers about COVID-19 in North Carolina and a huge uptick in the past day. A total of more than 1,400 new cases reported yesterday with these new numbers out just a little while ago. That is the highest single-day total in North Carolina since May 14th, and this is the 5th day in a row that the state has topped 1,000 cases. Also, we have 694 people currently hospitalized in North Carolina with COVID-19. A little bit of good news, though. We have hit a milestone in vaccinations in North Carolina. State officials reporting that 60% of adults statewide have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. Of course, Governor Cooper is speaking at 2 o'clock. You can watch that here on WRAL TV or wherever you get WRAL News. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that update, Brian. Students on traditional schedules will be headed back to school in the coming weeks, but whether they will be masking up may depend on where they live. In some cases, masking up is up to the district or even the school. In other cases, it may be up to the state. At least 9 states have enacted legislation that prohibits school districts from requiring masks in schools. Other states have mask requirements.
This is the way that we can help keep everyone safe and to protect everyone in our community, and especially right now, those children under 12 who don't have access to this safe and effective vaccine.
Only 57% of people 12 and up are fully vaccinated, but new cases of COVID-19 are on the rise in every state. Schools in New Orleans are serving as COVID-19 vaccination sites in hopes of returning things to more normal for the fall semester. New Orleans public schools currently require unvaccinated students and staff to wear masks indoors. One student who was initially on the fence says she decided to get the shot after losing a family member to COVID.
At first, I was on the opposition about it. That's why it took me so long, but then I realized it's real. You can say one thing, the science is there, and it's real. And it's happening, and it's causing deaths.
The principal says it's important the vaccine be available to everyone so that students can return to the classroom and have a wonderful learning experience.
The CDC says the Delta variant of the coronavirus is more contagious and more dangerous, and it is fueling a startling surge in cases and deaths across the country. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reports many places are rethinking their mask policies and may return to crisis mode.
Here in New York City, the mayor is announcing that all employees at city-run hospitals must be vaccinated or get weekly COVID tests. The city will join San Francisco, which mandated that all city employees there get vaccinated last month. Now, this all comes as the CDC reveals troubling new numbers about the spread of the Delta variant, saying it now accounts for 83% of all new COVID infections nationwide. Now, the country is averaging more than 1,000 new infections every hour. In 22 states, cases have skyrocketed over 100% in the last 2 weeks. In 9 states, deaths have surged 80% or more. In southern states like Louisiana, only 36% of the population is fully vaccinated. And there's also news on the vaccine front. According to a study posted online Tuesday, the J&J vaccine may be less effective against the Delta variant. The study suggests that the 13 million people that have already gotten that one-shot vaccine may need a booster shot, although federal officials don't recommend that. It's important to note that the study has not been peer-reviewed or published in a scientific journal, and that J&J says that its own smaller studies suggest that it does offer strong protection against the Delta variant. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, New York.
COVID-19 cases in North Carolina are rising. Right now, we are averaging nearly 1,000 new cases a day. Governor Cooper is expected to address the increase at 2 o'clock. We'll carry that news conference on air, online, and on the WRAL News app. WRAL is recognizing the best in high school sports across North Carolina. Tomorrow, our own Nick Stevens will host the annual High School OT Honors Awards. Your votes determine the winners in 36 categories, including Athletes and Coaches of the Year and Team of the Year. Watch it live tomorrow night at 7:30 on highschoolot.com or wherever you stream WRAL.
High school students have the chance to win a free car just by donating blood. Power Swain Chevrolet is teaming up with Cape Fear Valley Blood Donor Center to give away this car you see here. It's a Chevy Spark. Contestants must be in high school in Cumberland, Bladen, Harnett, or Hoke counties and donate blood before July 26th. The push comes during a critical blood shortage in the area. North Carolina's first public park is hiring, and you could get your foot in the door today. Pullen Park is looking for attractions operators to work on the carousel and that train you see there. Last month, employee shortages forced that park to close several rides. Open interviews are taking place at the park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., then from 3 to 6 p.m. today. You can find a full description of those jobs available on the City of Raleigh's website. And the sunflowers, they're in full bloom at Dix Park. Man, they look beautiful. You can snap a photo of the fields for a chance to win a prize as well. You can submit it online at dixparkconservancy.org. The photo with the most votes will be announced on social media on August 22nd.
Adam, you're such a good photographer. You have to submit one.
I'm getting out there.
Okay. Speech made possible through science. The amazing technology that allows people who've lost the ability to speak to communicate by analyzing their brainwaves. And blame the pandemic for a shorter average lifespan. Why it's the biggest drop we've seen in decades. If you see news happening or you'd like to share a story idea with us, click Report It in the WRAL News app. A research team at UCSF has developed a way for a paralyzed man who cannot speak to communicate by translating signals from his brain into full sentences. The study recently came out in the New England Journal of Medicine. Robert Handa spoke with the study's lead author about this incredible achievement.
The project started with a man, a brainstem stroke survivor, who lost the ability to speak 15 years ago and could only communicate using a pointer attached to his head to point to letters. That method helped researchers create a 50-word vocabulary. Then, an implanted electrode device recorded his brain activity as he tried to speak specific words. Computer algorithms then translated that brain activity and matched it to the vocabulary list, much like a phone's predictive text function. And that allowed him to create sentences via brain signals.
We found that there are still speech-related signals in the part of the brain that controls the vocal tract.
Right now, the vocabulary is limited to 50 words as a proof of concept.
One of the immediate next steps is to say, how do we get more words into this vocabulary? And so that's kind of ongoing research.
In fact, the research team says there will be ongoing research in many areas. Ultimately, admittedly a long way off, is turning brain activity into actual sounds.
Speech is kind of the ultimate goal. That's what we're really striving for.
The cutting-edge research has led to some misunderstanding. The team gets annoyed when neuroprosthesis is described as mind reading.
This is specifically to help people. The ultimate goal is to help people who do not have a lot of other options when it comes to communicating.
Okay, so not mind reading, but life changing. That's amazing. A man in Maryland who needs a wheelchair to get around can still take his newborn son for a stroll. A group of middle school students built this device, which makes it possible to attach a baby car seat to a wheelchair. Students in the Innovation and Technology Lab also built a device which allows a person in a wheelchair to push a stroller.
That's wonderful. Americans are living short lives on average, mostly because of the coronavirus pandemic. A new report from the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics says life expectancy fell by 1.5 years last year. That's the biggest drop since World War II. In 2019, life expectancy was 78.8 years. However, in 2020, it was 77.3 years, the lowest since 2003. The report also says Hispanic and Black people saw larger declines in life expectancy than whites. A new study shows how the COVID-19 pandemic may have affected our sleep. Researchers asked 90 adults to complete a sleep diary every morning. They found people had a harder time falling asleep and woke more in the night. There were also more vivid dreams during lockdown. People also had more dreams about being in crowded places post-lockdown. I imagine so.
Yeah. Well, the Jonas Brothers are going for gold. We know they can sing. Now the trio is putting their athletic abilities to the test for an hour-long Olympic special. After watching this preview, you might agree, maybe they should just stick to singing, Adam.
Oh, that's rough. Plus, they don't call it the Field of Dreams for nothing. It is a dream come true for one family after a military dad returns from a 4-year deployment overseas. These are always great.
Local news coverage of the Tokyo Olympics brought to you on WRAL by your Carolina Ford dealers.
With some Olympic competition already underway and the opening ceremony of the Tokyo Games just 2 days away, the Jonas Brothers are getting into the spirit.
Yes, could get interesting. Tonight's 1 hour special shows the musical siblings in Olympic sports. Mark Barger has a preview.
Today, we are athletes, all going for the gold.
The Jonas Brothers talk a good game for tonight's special.
I'm going to destroy you both. Never, ever.
They'll compete against each other in Olympic sports, track, gymnastics, and BMX biking.
The competitive nature between the three of us is very high, no matter what it is that we're doing. I could do that. Oh, yummy!
But their biggest accomplishment tonight
How you guys feeling?
Awful.
might be heightening appreciation for the real Olympians in Tokyo, including world record holder Sydney McLaughlin. She's one of several to offer coaching.
You're running through the hurdle. You're not floating over like a butterfly.
Whoa. It's been a lot of fun, and to be around these Olympic athletes is very humbling.
The guys do manage some shining moments.
The only triple-double my brothers know about is a burger, and they can't even finish that.
Finishing was also an issue at the BMX track, where these practice runs went fine, but in the eventual race, Nick fell, suffering a cracked rib the night before the Voice finale.
I've been better, but I'm doing all right.
That injury literally taking Jonas out of his comfort zone.
Even if you're not a fan, you're going to see us in a way you've never seen us before. And if you're really not a fan, like you hate us, you're going to love this show because we make complete fools of ourselves.
Ensuring the Jonas' Olympic dreams remain just that. Mark Barger, NBC News.
And Olympic Dreams featuring the Jonas Brothers airs tonight at 8 p.m. right here on WRAL.
WRAL will be tracking all the big stories and North Carolina athletes competing in the Olympics every day. Live coverage begins tomorrow at 6 a.m. and ahead at 7 a.m. on weekdays. The Today Show is live from Tokyo all week as the games begin. WRAL is your home for the Olympics. Well, we're about to make sweating an Olympic sport, Elizabeth, with our temperatures and our heat. North Carolina could go for the gold in this one.
And win, for sure. No question about it. Oh, it was so nice to have that break yesterday and the day before. I mean, especially Monday when our temperatures were in the 70s. We did have some heavy rain and there was some flooding, so you never want that. But it is kind of nice to have that break from the heat. This is a look at our live camera network, and we do have haze everywhere. It shows up on these cameras a little bit better in some places than others. It actually looks pretty blue and clear in Goldsboro, but look look over here. Sorry, that's not Durham. That's the airport, and you can see it looks very hazy. Chapel Hill looks a little more blue and looks a slightly bit more hazy there in Apex. So we have plenty of sunshine. All of our clouds have slipped southward. This stationary front is weakening and dispersing right now, and it's not really going to be anything that has an impact on our weather. We do have a cold front up to the north, and I wish that I could say that that front was going to bring us some cooler air, but it isn't. Behind that front, we will continue our flow coming out of the northwest, and like we talked about half an hour ago, there are those fires that are up in central Canada, and so that may continue to deliver some of this smoky air to our region for the next several days. So it could be maybe Friday or Saturday before we see that wind shifting again. Our cloud cover forecast, we started off cloudy this morning, but we are back to sunshine today. Now, it is definitely a hazy sunshine, but it is some sunshine, and that's causing our temperatures to climb. It's also very muggy, so with the heat and the mugginess, we can't completely rule out a shower this afternoon. Futurecast is really not showing much for us, but just to sort of cover the bases with this particular pattern, it's a 20% chance. Speaking of covering the bases, sorry, 6:35, the Durham Bulls throw out the first pitch for the game tonight. 86 degrees at 6 o'clock, 82 at 8 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock, 78. So not bad. I mean, it's pretty muggy out there, but we're not looking at a lot of rain in our forecast for later on today. We're not going to see much out of this system. Now, with the proximity of this, it sort of catches your attention, doesn't it? It's sitting right off the coast of Georgia and Florida with a 20% chance of developing in the next 5 days. But we look at some of the computer models, and it doesn't look likely to really have too much of an effect on us. You can see this line of showers and thunderstorms, and as we get into Saturday, some circulation tries to develop along that line. But about the time it tries to move up closer to North Carolina, that cold front that I was telling you about picks up and starts to move in. Now, we may have some high rip current danger along the coast, but we get this front coming through, and it's likely to kick that on out to sea. Now, the timing of that could be questionable, so it is something that we'll have our eye on for, of course, now through the weekend. Today, 20% chance, a 20% chance on Friday, 30 Saturday. Right now, it looks pretty dry on Sunday out ahead of that front, but by Monday and Tuesday, that front moves on in. Notice we're not looking at a huge chance of rain even then, just a 30% chance. Our temperatures will range from the upper 80s to low 90s, so it's really going to be the heat index in the mid to upper 90s. That's our big weather story for the next 5 or 6 days.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. A couple of amateur paleontologists make a huge discovery in England thanks to Google Earth. After the break, we'll show you images of the 167-million-year-old creature that may have walked with the dinosaurs.
And here's a look at your Mega Millions numbers. 10, 26, 30, 52, 57. The Mega Ball is 10 and the Mega Flyer is 2.
Olympic swimmers say the hardest thing about practice is getting in the pool.
Yeah, when I get to the pool, I don't like jumping in the water. No, never have. I probably never will.
Sounds pretty important, though. Here from Tokyo Olympic swimmers, that'll be new at 4.
The new album from Kanye West, Donda, drops on Friday. It's his 10th studio album, named after his mother, who died in 2007 after a cosmetic surgery. Leading up to the big release, there's going to be a listening event tomorrow night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It will be live streamed globally via Apple Music. Kanye's last album was the 2019 gospel record Jesus is King, which won a Grammy for Best Contemporary Christian Album. A heartwarming moment captured from a field of a minor league baseball game in Louisville, Kentucky. An Army sergeant pulled off the ultimate surprise during the Louisville Bats game on Sunday. The children of First Sergeant Michael C. Miller threw out the first pitch at the game. They did not know that their dad would be the catcher. And once the game's announcer revealed his identity, well, you see the result. His family was overcome with joy as they ran to greet him.
We'll never see enough of those. Incredible. This story's crazy. A couple was going stir crazy during the pandemic lockdown, so they decided to plan a trip, and now they are credited with finding a group of animal fossils that lived 167 million years ago. Experts say the discovery is the largest and most important find of exquisitely preserved animals ever found. Amongst the findings were a type of feather star, a brittle star, and a sea cucumber. Scientists say those animals were new species unknown to them. How interesting is that? Time now for our pet of the day. It comes from Cat Angels Pet Adoptions, and Levi is sure to catch your attention With those round cheeks, a button nose, and soft, fashionably striped fur, he lives to soak up attention and enjoys endless head rubs. Levi had a little difficulty in life before being rescued, but it hasn't kept him down. He is FIV positive, so will need to stick to regular vet visits, has special food, but is still very, very happy and healthy and full of love.
Here's a look now at a few of the headlines we are following today. A man charged with shooting a 72-year-old woman to death is being held without bond at the Harnett County Detention Center. Artist Elliott surrendered to deputies this morning. Investigators say he shot Margie Pipkin in the head while shooting at someone else in another car. In about an hour, Governor Cooper will update the coronavirus pandemic in our state. The update comes as COVID-19 cases are on the rise in North Carolina, and in some cases, vaccinated people are getting sick. WRAL will carry the governor's address on air and online on WRAL.com and on our WRAL News app. And a crushing blow for U.S. women's soccer. Team USA lost their first round match against Sweden 3-0. The upset ends a 44-game unbeaten streak for USA. They're not out of contention, though, and you might recall that in 2008, the U.S. women's team lost to Norway before going on to win gold.
I have a feeling that will happen again. We'll continue to follow those stories and more on WRAL News at 4.
You can also get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Try to stay cool. Have a great day.